So a few weeks ago, I listed my Massey Ferguson 135 tractor for sale, and within 3 hours, I sold it. Even after all the work that I put into that tractor, I still made money on it. In the meantime, I've been trying to find a four-wheel drive tractor, but the truth is, a four-wheel drive tractor in that 50 horsepower range, they're either not cheap or guys just aren't selling them. I'm still on the hunt for that tractor, but I found a replacement tractor. I've been watching this international tractor for the last few weeks, and I noticed last night that the guy dropped his price quite a bit. As I was driving through his little community, which is about an hour and a half away from our ranch, I shot him a text. I stopped by and looked at the tractor. He basically made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I gave him half the money. I've got to get back down there right now and give him the other half of the money, get the tractor picked up and get it brought back up here. But the one thing I don't like about those tractors is what's called the 2-point hitch, or the fast hitch. I'm going to have to convert it over to the 3-point traditional style of hitches, because that's how all of my implements are set up for. Which I also picked up a scraper blade that I've been trying to replace since I sold my last one. So this would be a great tractor for a restoration. I'm not really a diehard International guy any more than I'm, I guess, a diehard Massey Ferguson guy, but I like the diesels. I'm gonna get this tractor back up here, get it going, make sure everything's okay with it, get the 2-point hitch turned into a 3-point hitch, and I'll probably send this one down the road at some point, hopefully when I find a 50 horsepower 4x4 tractor. But in the meantime, I need to get it back up here. The tractor is a 1961 International Harvester 340D. Now, the International 340 is not that rare of a tractor, but the diesel version is. It's thought that somewhere around 547 of these tractors were made. Okay, I got it loaded. Once the previous owner told me to hit the glow plugs, I don't think they're actually glow plugs, some sort of a heater on it, it fired right off. So I'm about to drive by this old-timey little hamburger stand down here that I've wanted to eat at for about 5 years now, and I don't know if they're allowing people inside or not, but I'm gonna run across the street real quick and see if I can't get me a old-timey hamburger. The price of beef at the consumer is at an all-time high. The price of beef on the hoof is at an all-time low. We now have beef in this country from places like Namibia. The dairy industry is dumping tens of thousands of gallons of milk every day. Two million chickens that were ready to be processed were recently buried because supposedly there was not enough help to process those chickens. There are farmers turning crops under. And yet we're still importing from outside of our country. The little restaurant that I stopped at has always taken pride in their beef. If I recall correctly, you used to be able to look out one of their windows in the restaurant and look down on their pastures of their cows as they were grazing. For a long time now, Cedar and I have been quite concerned about where our food comes from. My dad was an avid gardener. He was a beekeeper. We had around 14 fruit trees in our backyard. He was passionate about his food and where it came from. He was raised on a ranch where my grandparents also took pride in where their food came from, although back then, that was just what people did. They had gardens. They knew the butcher in town, who also took pride in where the meat came from. But we're so disconnected from what meat really is that it's now become a controversial subject. People are uncomfortable with the idea that meat was once a living thing, yet they still consume meat. Our objective is, as we get more established here on our homestead, is to get up close and personal with all of our food.
Since Hobby Lobby's closed, I have to spray paint.
What are we doing?
Hobby Lobby's closed.
Can you get the lid off?
No.
Step one, get the lid off. Come on!
All right. Okay, I give up. Now you broke it.
Sorry, it's off. I gotta teach you some technique.
From back in your...
From back in the dizzy.
tagging days.
I'm rolling in the hood back in junior high.
It looks beautiful. Doesn't matter how you paint it.
No, there's technique. I've painted entire vehicles with that stuff.
I don't know if that's something you should be proud of.
I'm thinking very seriously about digging into the hillside and putting in a long-term greenhouse that we may be able to utilize all year round. As we continue to have breakdowns in the food chain, it becomes more and more apparent that all the things that my dad and my grandparents did are vitally important at this particular time. I can remember spending hours and hours and hours pulling weeds in our garden. I hated it, but yet I learned something. I remember what a tomato is supposed to taste like. It's almost impossible for me to eat a store-bought tomato at this particular point. They might look good sitting there on the shelf, but the flavor does not reflect its appearance. I hope and pray that these breakdowns in the food chain are temporary. But the truth is, all the stimulus checks in the world are useless if there's no food. I've been trying to find this very particular scraper blade for over a year now. It not only pivots back and forth from side to side, but the blade also pivots, and the horizontal angle of that blade also pivots. These scraper blades, if you can find them, can be quite expensive. I paid $50 for this thing because it was bent and the cutting edge was broken, so it needed some help. I went down to the scrapyard, found some angle iron, found an old cutting edge off a snowplow, which is really not the right cutting edge for this application, but I'm going to make it work. I spent about $30 on steel. Now I've got to get it back together. My son Rhett is taking a welding class, and this is a good opportunity for him to get some extra credit. After getting a few things tacked in place, I turned him loose and let him gain some more experience. He'll turn 16 in a few weeks, and he's got some money set aside for a truck. But I've been asking him to get one particular grade up just a little bit so he can get this truck. He struggled to do this, especially with the changes in schooling that have happened over the last couple of months. And now, as his father, I get to decide whether or not I'm going to help him find a truck over the summer. Truthfully, he's been driving for quite some time. Oftentimes when we jump in my truck together, I let him drive. It's just good experience. Because we're 2.5 miles out in the middle of nowhere, he'll grab Cedar's car, drive down to the mailbox, bring it back up, and again, get some experience. There's part of me that wants to be the hard-nosed father and continue to let his 18-year-old sister drive him to school. because he didn't get the one grade up as high as I wanted him to get it. But there's also part of me that remembers my grades back in high school. And truthfully, he's probably getting more life skills right here welding on this scraper blade than he is pretending to do schoolwork on the computer. But naturally, I want him to amount to more than I did. The scraper blade came together well. The 2-point to 3-point hitch conversion works just fine. The tractor runs good. It's got 2 axle seals that need to be replaced. I've already ordered those axle seals. They're supposed to be here next week. The engine runs great. It has tons of power. It doesn't burn any oil. We'll definitely put this thing to work over summer. Oh, that's probably too much. But as usual, I will continue looking for the tractor that I'm hoping to find. We've had snow on the ground up here at the ranch in the first week of June. For this reason, even down in town, most people don't start their gardens until after graduation. I went and picked up some 2-year-old dairy compost that had been turned regularly and screened, mixed it in with some great topsoil, and this is going to be the base for our garden this year. We're going to do our own version of the square foot gardening method. Now the first part of next week, I'm going to build a hoop house over our pallet garden boxes. I've got to do everything I can to keep these vegetables from freezing.
Aren't you glad I only made you do 12 instead of 20?
One of the things that I enjoy more than anything is working outside with my wife and kids. I love the fact that Cedar is passionate about gardening, and she's not afraid to get her hands dirty. My goal this week was to get all of the rain gutters completely finished, but I ended up being short just a couple of pieces, so I wasn't able to get up on the second story to finish the rain gutters there. But again, I can't say enough about the burger rain gutters. Not only do they have the right look, but it's so apparent how well built they are. And again, the fact that they're American made makes me feel proud putting them on our house. I worry that things are rapidly changing when it comes to manufacturing outside of this country. While at one time we were the manufacturing capital of the world, it has been many years since this was the case. But I would love to see it get back to the way it once was. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. We hope you guys have a great day.